Josh, thank you for being here today, bro.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited for a nice chat.
Hell yeah, we have a very on-brand setup for you. We got the gym in the background.
That's right.
Let's go. That's awesome. So this conversation is very timely for me because I'm going through a bit of a fitness crisis at the moment that I would love your 2 cents on. So I've been training pretty conventionally, just like weightlifting for probably like I'm 23 at this point, so probably like 9 years.
Okay, nice.
So I watched this. I was on Twitter the other day, and I saw this video of a bodybuilder sprinting, and I was like, "That looks like the least athletic thing I've ever seen in my life." I was like, I'm scared that I'm heading in the wrong direction with that, because I've neglected stretching, I've neglected mobility, just kind of focused on getting as big as possible, and now I'm kind of feeling like I don't really want to get any bigger. I don't really have any strength goals in the weightlifting department anymore. So now I kind of feel like I want to take a more functional, holistic type of approach, and I don't really know how to approach that.
Well, man, I went through that same exact crisis. I was a little bit older than you. I was probably like 25, 26. And I just realized that, I grew up playing sports, and I played basketball in college, and I was athletic and I could move. And then I spent 4 years just bodybuilding, just doing heavy deadlifts, and I realized that I was slow, and I was lost so much athleticism, and I was like, man, what's my future look like? I want to be able to engage in different activities and just be capable in my body. So for me, the big spark was an injury that I had, and then so I couldn't really lift a lot of weight with my legs because it was tore my meniscus in my knee. So I was like, well, what can I do? In the meantime, I started trying to learn to do a handstand. And then along with that, I was like, I've never worked on flexibility before. Let me do some stretching with my handstand training, because that's how a lot of people kind of couple those two things. You do a handstand and then do a stretch of something, and you just kind of keep alternating and supersetting that. And dude, it totally changed my view of my fitness. And I was like, man, I love, I was just starting to feel so much better. And I love also I love trying to unlock something new in my body, whether that's a new range of motion. I want to get the pancake splits, or doing the handstand. I couldn't do the handstand at one point, and now I can. That's a really cool feeling for a human being to go through, I think. So yeah, for me, man, I think it's my advice to you is start slow. If you've identified mobility and flexibility as a weakness and something that could potentially make you feel better and improve your life, then that's a good reason to start working on it. And it doesn't have to be you go all into it. You can keep lifting weights, but it's okay, but I'm also going to prioritize these mobility sessions as well.
Yep. I think speaking of basketball, I think one of the only mobility stretching routines I got into was, oh dude, I don't remember how long it was at this point, but you had one stretching video on YouTube where you tell the story of your high school basketball season.
Yep.
While you're going through the stretching routine.
Yeah.
That was I absolutely loved that video. I thought that was always one of my favorites. It was such a cool concept.
Really, you didn't think it was corny at all? After I made it, I was like, man, this is kind of corny, but it's different. I'm just gonna release it.
That'd be a really cool area for almost like a podcast breakthrough of somebody. Doing these stretching routine podcast type of things.
Dude, yeah.
That's a cool little change up from the
might have to I might have to steal that from you, man. That's good.
Dude, I brought it up for you to steal for
okay.
Sure. So let's talk about when it comes to the stretching and mobility stuff. You have your daily practice that you have up on your YouTube. Is that kind of where you'd recommend starting for something like that?
Yeah, actually, that's a great place to start. There's different ways to go about like building a mobility stretching routine for you. You know, the daily practice is one of my favorite ones of just like, here, let me do this 10 to 15 minutes of stretching every single day. And, you know, it's all about just like building that habit. Um, and that's kind of signaling to your body every day that, you know, I want to have this range of motion, I want to use these joints, and then your body likes that, and it'll eventually give it to you more and more. And then you know, another way to go about it is to do a bit more intensity in your mobility, so things that are um, things that don't feel super comfortable. It's a little bit
Mm,
more uncomfortable than like a daily routine. And with that higher intensity, you're going to do it less. So you're going to do it maybe 2 to 3 times a week. I really like having people start with the daily practice style. And then
mhm,
from there, you can kind of identify what are the big areas in my body that I seem like really restricted, you know, like,
mm,
okay, maybe my hamstrings feel fine. I can touch my toes. I can do that. But like going into like a lunge, my back hip is just so tight. Like my hip flexors feel so tight. Okay, we might need to implement some
mhm.
higher intensity stretching for these hip flexors, for the quads. And then you could, you know, build a little routine that you're going to do like 2 times a week. And this can also fit with strength training as well.
Oh yeah,
You can do some, you know, some more potent stretching after you hit like some gym lifts or whatever.
totally. And that weighted mobility is pretty amazing too. I don't know if you mess with that at all, but using those weights to get in that interesting range of motion, like unlocking things that you can't really get in without the weight. I love that type of practice as well.
Absolutely. It's a way to get quick results too. Like you'll find that you can hit way deeper ranges of motion if you're using some added resistance, or even if it's just your body weight and you know like how to get your body in certain positions that will use your body
Mm-hmm.
weight against gravity to kind of like nudge you deeper and deeper. And that's kind of what I'm referring to as
Yep.
higher intensity stretching, right? So like you wouldn't want to do that every day, but like, you know, 2 days a week, heck yeah.
And so, what does your daily practice look like nowadays? Are you, from a movement standpoint of stretching, mobility, and then more of the fitness stuff as well, diet? Kind of, what does that like daily routine almost look like nowadays? And
Mm,
how's it evolved?
mm. So, um, yeah, I've been through many evolutions in the past like 8 years of doing more of this style of training of focusing more on body weight training, I guess you could say, and kind of developing more of a movement practice that has different elements to it. Um, the, so I just had twin boys about a year ago, and that's really
Congratulations.
changed like my
Yeah.
my practices and whatnot. And so now, yeah, like getting that 10 minutes of daily stretching is really, really prime for me, because I don't have as much time, right? So I can't really like go and dedicate like, oh, I'll do 3 hours of training this day, 2 hours of training the next day. You know, that's kind of what I used to do. But now it's like my chunks are smaller. So if I can find little moments throughout the day to get those sessions in, shorter sessions, I love this idea of doing a few shorter sessions throughout the day rather than having to have like one massive um,
Mhm.
chunk.
That's nice too, because I'm assuming that weight room that I see in the back is in your house, so you could just pop in, do 5 minutes of training, go back upstairs, keep doing kind of things like that.
Very true. Yeah, this is actually, it's not at the house. We have like a little strength side HQ
Ooh,
gym
badass.
here. Yeah, it's kind of just for internal use with me and my brother Trevor, and we film videos here and train here
That's
and
awesome.
stuff. But yeah, it's been amazing to have this during the birth of my boys and stuff, because it's very close to my home, but I've needed
Mhm.
to have a bit of separation with crying babies
No
at home.
doubt.
Like I got to be able to focus and do some work. So yeah, it's coming really nice.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, being a dad, like, I mean, I'm far away from that right now, hopefully. But staying consistent in your training, in the YouTube stuff, just I'm sure it's been a adjustment process. How has it been trying to just keep everything moving in the right direction? Because that's when you
Yeah,
see a lot of people fall off in terms of the fitness and the training and starting to add weight. It's definitely doesn't seem like the easiest thing to maintain.
it's not, man. It's not. Like, I'm lucky I do this for my job because I have so much compassion to parents who are doing something else for their job. They're working a 9 to 5, and then they're also trying to like stay in shape on top of it. Like, luckily for my job, I get to come here and like work out and
Yeah.
like film videos and stuff. Um, but yeah, I mean, talk about crisis, man. Like, it's been such like a crazy experience, like getting the news that, oh my gosh, we're having a baby, and then, oh my gosh, we're having twins. Like, how are we gonna
Yeah.
handle this? And then me really feeling a lot of pressure, like I got to keep things going. Like, I got to support this family now, and that um, being pretty stressful. But then what I didn't anticipate is after the boys were born, and like in those first months, I thought that things were going to be so hard, but I actually felt like this really deep, like motivation, like, ooh, yeah, like now I have a real reason to just like crush it every day and to
Mm.
give it my all to like to support this family. Right. And that's felt really good. So it's been a little bit mixed. It's been stressful, but it's also been that like kick of like, let's do it.
Yeah, that why has gotten a lot stronger.
That's right. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. And
Yeah.
so diet wise, what type of um how has your diet what does your diet look like right now, and how's it kind of changed with time? Because you've always been pretty shredded.
Mm. Thanks.
Yeah.
um, honestly, in the past few years, in the past like 3 years, I've completely cleaned up my diet so much. Like me as like a 28-year-old, I was training a bunch and I was just eating whatever I wanted to,
Mhm.
and I was still really really lean because I was training so much and I was
Yeah.
like keeping my activity level really really high. But that worked until it didn't, and I started to just run into like, oh man, like this food's not making me feel very good. Like, starting to have certain reactions to this food. So in the last 3 years, it's been like a real, uh, like, okay, let's take care of this now. And
Yeah.
nowadays, I eat pretty paleo ish. Like, I'm not super strict on a paleo diet, but uh, I very low grains, mostly meats and vegetables, potatoes, and like nuts and eggs. And there's a farm nearby where I can get raw milk and like raw
Fantastic.
yogurt, so like raw dairy products and stuff. So um, it's been good because I've learned a lot about how nutrition not only impacts like your body, like your body composition and what you look like, but also just how you feel every day. Like, that's becoming more and more important to me, to just like clear mind, feel really good, to train and to work and focus and stuff.
Yeah. And like, diet for a long time, I viewed it as like such a complicated thing, as like
Mm,
all these experts saying so many different things, and um, it's just one of those things that you get a bit overwhelmed. But
yeah.
with time, you kind of figure out, at least for me, that like paleo-ish type of approach, just meat heavy, eating kind of ancestrally consistent, dude, it works so well, and you just feel so much better. It's the way
Yeah,
to go.
man. But you're right. You're right. It's so simple. It's not really something that we have to overthink. It's like,
Yeah.
what makes sense for us to eat? What are like the pure forms of food? What are the non-processed things? And then if you just like get the bulk of your calories from that, then yeah, you feel really good, and then you can kind of um, you can figure out the body composition stuff from there. I think it's good starting off point.
Yeah.
First, get yourself feeling good, and then figure out, okay, like maybe I want to lean out a little bit. How can I do that? I'm going to restrict my calories in some type of way. I've used intermittent fasting quite a bit over the years, and that's had positive effects for me as well. So
Do you still do it?
currently, right now, I'm not doing it. Currently, I'm eating some breakfast, which, but like, so previous spring time, 2023 spring time, I was just like, I wanted to lean up a little bit. I'd kind of like bulked up just a bit over winter, and I was like, all right, I want to drop like 5 to 10 pounds maybe. And I went just like strict intermittent fasting, 12 to 8, and then pushed it like, I want to say 2 to 8 or 3 to 8. And dude, it worked like a charm, you know. Like lost like 1 pound a week for maybe like 8 weeks or something. And yeah.
Yeah. Dude, it's the late nights that get you when you cut it off at 8. It helps so much.
Yeah, no, that's so true. Yeah. And then I'd find myself sometimes like being like, oh, well, I'll just go like 4 to 9, you know, because like I want to eat a little bit later today, but it is the late nights that'll get
Yeah.
me as well.
So dude, what are some, I'm sure you get the same questions over and over again on YouTube, people commenting. What are those common questions that you seem to get time and time again?
Mm. Where do you buy your sweats? That's it, dude. It's crazy. Like being a fitness person on YouTube, I think like the most questions you get is like about your clothes or something. It's just like, what about this stuff that I just showed you? You have any questions about that? But
That's too funny, dude.
a lot of questions about diet, especially because I don't make that many videos on it, so I think
Hmm.
people sometimes get curious. A lot of questions about like, so during the pandemic was when a lot of our stretching routines got really, really popular. Um, and a lot of people would ask like, oh, like, what else do you do? You know, like, do you just have your physique from like just doing these stretching routines or like this movement stuff? And um, I mean, that's kind of a good question because yeah, like we've or I guess I should say I've developed this like versatile practice where I'm spending a couple days a week like really focused on stretching and stuff, but then I'm also spending like 2 to 3 days a week focused really on strength, right? And then the other days I kind of fill in with just things that I'm kind of interested in at the moment, like the animal movement stuff. That stuff
Hmm.
is always kind of um, I'm always playing with that. And then I've done like some parkour in the past, some capoeira, stuff like that. So I'm a big believer in following interests and,
Hmm.
you know, like not thinking that fitness has to be one thing, not thinking that, oh, I have to be like big and strong because like that's what our society values and stuff. Find something that you like and
Hmm.
enjoy doing and stay consistent at it, and then man, you're gonna build a great physique from that. You're gonna have a lot of fun doing it. You're gonna find meaning from your fitness practice. So um yeah,
Yeah.
forget the question that I originally said was, but
So yeah, I mean, I think that it's funny you say that because it's something I'm hearing more and more from calisthenics type of people
hmm.
doing a lot of these body weight movements. They're like, make it your own, like have some fun with it.
Hmm.
It doesn't seem to be as regimented as so many other practices. It's like a lot of these people, it seems like, just kind of do go off flow a little bit more.
Hmm. Yeah, I think there's something there, right? Like it's um I think training can be very analytic driven and science based and like or evidence based, right? That's the term that a lot of people like to use. And it's like this is the most optimal way to achieve X, Y, and Z. But the thing is that sometimes doesn't take into consideration like the humanness of the trainee, right? That we have desires of like wanting to get certain things from our physical movement that maybe just doing uh, this many sets and reps of something doesn't give us, right? So like your movement can be a way to go through problem solving, which I think like all humans really desire problem solving, right? We like to, because there's creativity in it, and we have to like figure out a path from A to B. And I think that that's calisthenics people are experiencing that because like there's also skill components to these movements. So it's like not only am I strong enough to do this, but like have I practiced it enough to be able to coordinate this movement and whatnot. And I think that's what is really special about body weight movement. I also like to lift weights too because I think being strong is awesome. But yeah, calisthenics gives that more of that creativity and movement for me.
So to paint a picture for people, if you only had 10 exercises and these are all you could do, we will stick to like strength-based stuff.
Strength-based stuff.
So 10 exercises, the only 10 exercises you can do for the rest of your life for full body. What do you think those 10 would be?
Man. All right, we'll see how many I could fill in here. It might be less than 10, honestly, because
Okay.
I think like you don't need that many movements to really like build strength in a good physique, but some form of squat will be in there, right? And that could be squats with a barbell. It could be, if you don't have weights, it could be pistol squats, but like I'm really into the idea of like you should always be squatting, but that doesn't necessarily mean like you should be crushing yourself under a barbell. There's tons of different squats that you could do. Pull-ups, the best back developer. Let's see. I'll say push-ups, but push-ups in a variety of forms. Like I'm right now really into handstand push-ups. That's like, yeah, I love handstand push-ups, man. It's so hard, and it
fills the shoulders.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like it's like going upside down and doing squats, kind of, and that's what I really like about it.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, okay, so this one may be a little bit more power based, but I'm gonna say sprints. I think sprints. Yeah. I mean, look at sprinters' bodies, right? It's like sprints obviously build such a fast twitch muscle fiber. Yeah, exactly. Power. And full body, right? People don't realize like you're using your core, using your arms, like it's so good.
Is that your favorite form of cardio? Like what type of are you kind of focused on that high intensity type of activity? Are you trying to do like jogging, zone 2 type of stuff, or you mainly focus on the sprinting?
Yeah, good question. I think so. I right now I'm sprinting once a week.
And what does
nothing.
That look like?
It's not very high volume at all. It's usually 5 all-out sprints for maybe like 50 yards or something like that. Like nothing too crazy, because I think these things, so I'm getting a bit older now. I'm 36, and I think some of these things, like the value is so high, but also they deplete you quite as well, right? So like I got to watch out for like my nervous system. I want to be able to do some training the next day. I don't want to feel wrecked. But then like that kind of leads to your question, is I think a balance of both of them are really nice, because then I do want to get like my blood flowing, and I want to find like a way to do that in a low intense, something that's not going to like be taxing on my body, right? So I have like an exercise bike right there, right? I'll use this little exercise bike, and this is something that I would have laughed at like 8 years ago when I was like 25. I'm like, oh my gosh, like I would never ride an exercise bike, like do something with your body, but like now it's like no, like I love to get this feeling of my blood flowing, my heart rate up, but I'm fine after. It's like I don't have to recover from that at all, right? And I do like running, but I would say for me, what I find with running is that it tends to like stiffen up my legs, right? Like my knees, my ankles, my hips, they feel stiffer after. And that's not such a good feeling for me, right? So I don't run that often.
Yeah, I feel that. I ran a half marathon. I ran a couple of them, and the whole time I was running them, all I was doing was like looking at the people around me, and the whole time they're just like their movement patterns were horrific. They were so tight. Their feet were
Yep.
like, oh, they were like little, like almost like penguin esque. Like I was like, this does not seem healthy. I do not think this is good for you.
I agree, and it's tough because I do think running is it's like a very primal movement. You know, it's like if you've ever read that book, Born to Run,
Great book.
um, yeah, great book, right? And it's like yeah, it is. It's in our DNA to be able to run, but I think when you start trying to become a runner and you're pushing yourself, it's like I don't think this was the purpose for running that's in our DNA, right? We ran for a reason, and there'd be like these long bouts of like really slow running, but then we wouldn't do that every single day, right?
And what's
Um,
interesting about that as well is like you running would be so different than like the average Joe running who isn't doing this rate stretching mobility stuff. They're sitting in a chair for 8 hours a day. Their body isn't like primed enough to
right.
run 10 miles a day. And then when they do that, it's like it just is seems like more of a disaster for the body versus the person who's much more optimized to run that distance. Like going back to a more ancestral approach.
I agree. I agree. And then that person is probably doesn't want to run every day because they know that like focusing on other things is what's going to keep them,
Mhm.
healthy throughout life. Like I see there's a lot of runners where I live, and I'll always see old people that are like basically like limp running down the street, and it's like I feel compassion for them because I'm like that's their outlet. Running's probably so meditative for them, and they just want to keep doing it because it makes them feel good. But then also it's like like there's just like if there was more education, if they took some time to find other ways to get that outlet that are going to be healthier for their body long term, you know that would probably be better. So I see it both ways, but yeah, I agree, like your running experience in the half marathon, I've seen a lot of that.
Yeah. So we got squatting, pull-ups, push-ups, push-up alternatives thrown in there,
Hmm.
and then we got sprints. So we got four so far.
That's four so far. Okay, let's see.
We could call it five with the exercise bike because I think that's an important note.
Nice. Okay. um let's see. So I think like a deadlift is really nice for most people. Once again, like it's one that's really taxing on your body. Like I currently don't do deadlifts, but I've spent a lot of time in my life doing deadlifts, and I think learning how to hip hinge properly,
Mm.
to use your posterior chain, to become stronger there, like it's really really valuable. I think the how far people push that is usually too extreme. It's like how strong is strong enough. Like I think
Mhm.
we need to be able to, I don't know, lift your body weight, lifting your double your body weight. That can be a really cool goal if you're training hard and stuff. But you start to not get the return back as you keep pushing further and further. You're basically just kind of tightening your body up and making your spine really stiff.
That's a good one there.
Yeah, and then also yeah, like single leg deadlift variations, like very good um,
Mm.
movement pattern for balance, stability. Things that are often overlooked in training.
Okay, so we kind of hit the whole legs. We hit push-ups, we hit pull-ups, and then we got the bike as well. So you kind of covered most of the bases with the body.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably end my list there, right? If I could just throw out a few more that like would be nice to have. Like I love dips. I think dips are such a good one for the
Mm,
um
just
for
great.
the upper body to really like stretch those arms behind you. I think that hamstring curls or like Nordic curls have become really popular. That's like the other way to use your hamstrings versus a hip hinge, right? Now we're like pulling through the knee rather than the hip, and that actually learning how to flex my knee and pull that way actually helped me kind of alleviate knee pain a long time ago.
Mm.
Like once I started adding those in, it was just like, whoa, my knees just feel like way more bulletproofed, right? Like that
Mm.
pain went
Some knees
away.
to toe stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Knees
exactly.
over toes. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. So you mentioned deadlifts and kind of pushing that limit. You kind of lose that ROI on there.
Yeah.
What do you think some of the highest ROI things um, you do are in terms of movement? It could be stretching, it could be exercise related. Is there anything where you think the return on investment is just um, kind of should be a thing everyone's doing because of that?
Mm. Well, I think like these have become really popular on YouTube. The two positions that are really nice for the body just to spend time in on a daily basis or an every other day basis are like sitting in a squat, sitting in a deep squat, and hanging from a bar, right?
Mm,
So we're kind of taking like the bottom of a pull up, right? So
mhm,
and then we're taking like the bottom position of a squat, and I think that these positions maintain a lot of our body's natural functionality and mobility, right? Like if you can hang from a bar for 60 seconds, then your grip strength is going to be fine for most activities. Your shoulder is going to be mobile enough to reach over your head or reach behind you, probably to do what you want to do without a whole lot of um, shoulder dysfunction. And then the same for the lower body, right? If you can sit in a squat, then your ankles are flexible enough, your knees can compress, your hips are flexible enough. So just like two really high bang for your buck movements. It's not going to fix everything, right? Like it's not going to guarantee you that you have perfect shoulder mechanics and no shoulder pain,
mhm.
but it's going to be pushing you in the right direction.
Oh yeah. Are you familiar with Alex Hermosi?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like the business guru guy. He's
Yep.
pretty jacked.
Yeah.
Um, so he was on a podcast talking about how he had the worst back pain, and he went to every specialist in the world. He's like worth $100 million, and so he was sending money left and right trying to find a cure to his back pain.
Sure. Yeah.
And someone told him to start doing dead hangs,
Okay.
and he started doing like 5 minutes a day. Gone. All of the back pain, all of the tens of thousands of dollars he spent on chiropractors and specialists. Nothing compared to just a daily practice of dead hangs.
Just some dead hangs. Yeah, dude, it's crazy. I've heard similar. I mean, there's a book that I believe it's Dr. John Kirsch, and he wrote this book that he did this kind of internal study on his patients that were recommended for shoulder surgery. He gave them a hanging plan. It was an absurd number percentage of them that didn't end up having shoulder surgery just from this little
Wow.
hanging plan, right?
Dang.
Uh, I think it speaks to how um, our bodies are really built for movement. We're like built for these diverse activities, and then with the growth of technology and our society being pushed forward, that we're like gluing ourselves in one position and
Yeah.
not using those capacities. And then it's like, whoa, like when you start doing it, oh my gosh, all these new things open up in my body and things feel better. And yeah, our
You
bodies are
look
built
so
to
much
move,
more
so we should use it.
confident. Yeah, you look so
Mm-hmm.
much better and more confident with the posture. Like you see so many people today with the hunchback a bit, and yeah, it's
Yeah.
like just simple dead hangs, man.
Simple dead hangs.
That's a life
Yeah,
hack right there.
it is.
Um,
It is.
so what excites you lately since you've been doing this? I know you mentioned before you hit record that you've been posting on YouTube for 10 years now. Um, I'm sure in that time, obviously, things change. And what lately excites you in terms of the content you're putting out or exercises, movements, things you're experimenting with? Is there anything that's really just been front of mind or new-ish that gets you excited? Could be anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have, I'm not sure the number of subscribers on YouTube, but we're getting closer and closer to 2 million. And like one lesson that I've learned is that just because you have a lot of subscribers, it doesn't guarantee you anything, right? Like I I think I thought at like, oh, once we hit 1 million subscribers, like all our videos are just going to be popping every time we post and da 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 da. But it doesn't work like that. And I'm excited like each year or each couple of years, whatever the phases that we go through, to like reinvent what we're doing on YouTube, how we're presenting information. And a big part of being a YouTuber for me has really become like being a writer. Like I'm constantly working on different scripts for videos and improving that and dialing in, like, you know what, shorter intros. Like let's, like, people don't want to sit through long intros. Like let's make the intros really short. Okay, like how can we like tease out the information that's going to come in this video and get people like excited to watch it. And yeah, that process has stayed exciting for me for like the last 5 years. And this year we're hitting a good flow of like just this new style of video um, that we're doing as like a template, and it seems to be working pretty well. So yeah, that's super exciting to me, and I'm fortunate that it is, because it's easy to get kind of bored with doing the same thing over and over, you know.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it that consistency is, I mean, it's everything. It's like when you told me you've been doing this for 10 years, like it got me excited, because it's like, you know, what, like you win through endurance. So much of this game is
Yep.
like, I think about it with the podcast. It's like if you just stick with it for 10 years, it's like a lot of things change. You learn so much in that game, and yeah, it's so cool how just through that consistency. I'm curious for you if you think that's the biggest takeaway or the biggest thing of importance when it came to the success of strength side.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like it kind of sucks because sometimes I feel like it's a boring answer to give, like to like, you know, what do you think is the thing that's made your YouTube channel successful? It's like consistency. Like, you know, I started, yeah, this is the 10th year anniversary of Strength Side. We started in 2014, and I committed to posting a video every week. For a year, and then that turned into like 3 years, and then and then like I missed a few weeks here and there, but it stayed like mostly
Mm-hmm.
a video a week for a long time. And for like 4 to 5 years, it was man, we weren't getting a whole lot of traction. You know,
Yeah.
like there was not a whole lot of people watching our videos. We had a very small audience, and when I look back, I'm like, wow, I'm so proud of myself that I stuck with it. Like I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if I would have stuck with it like nowadays, but I found it in me to do it, and it paid off, man. And I
Yeah.
I see people all the time that have the same experience, but then I also see more people that drop off, that just stop doing it. And it's like, hey man, there's way more people more talented than me that know more than me. Um, but because like I just had the grit to stick it out, we've become successful, you know. So
Yeah.
I
I mean,
definitely like, I think that like I recommend that to you, you know, like even it's like it's the times when you're like, man, like this isn't working very well, like nothing's coming through. It's like you just got to get over those humps, and then something's going to happen, you know.
yeah. I mean, it's such a great. It might be a boring answer, but it's a great answer because it applies to so much more than just the
Mm,
YouTube stuff. Like, it's probably the same answer for the biggest takeaway for you in fitness, or biggest thing that
yeah.
has helped you or have success in fitness too. It's like,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
it is that consistency that almost trumps all things.
Yeah, it transcends just like one area, and it's like you know, it transfers for every single thing in life, which is those are the ideas that I really want to find and stick to, you know.
There's no doubt about it, dude. I think that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, when it comes to the the calisthenics. So your answer would be for kind of why you stuck with this approach you did goes back to the first question of this conversation, right? Of just you doing this more traditional bodybuilder thing and then kind of realizing that you had different goals outside of it. Is that really what I know that's what got you into the calisthenics, but do you think that that's why also why you've continued to do it? It's that same mission, or has there been something else you've found within calisthenics that has allowed you or has made you just stick with it?
Um, do you mean stick with calisthenics?
Yeah, instead of just because there's so many different shiny objects, obviously, when it comes to
Mm.
fitness. There's people doing this, there's people doing that, and then there's people swinging kettlebells, and then there's people
Right.
back squatting. It's like,
Uh-huh.
what made you kind of say like, all right, this is the approach for me?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. I think it comes back to the conversation of, growing up playing sports and then, um, and wanting to use my body, like wanting to use it in more, uh, athletic ways, functional ways. I don't know. These are just words that we can throw out, but it's like when you compare something like a pull up, right? You look at somebody doing a pull up and you see like the torso moving through the air, right? Manipulated by the back and the arms. And then if you look at a lat pull down machine, it's like the torso stays in the same place. We're seated and then we're moving our arms. Now, both are good exercises, but I'm just naturally drawn towards like manipulating my own body, right? And
Mhm.
I was really inspired by certain people I'd see on the internet who just had this like mastery of body control, and I was like, that's so appealing to me. That's what I want. It's not just the physique, it's not just like building muscle anymore. Like I'm seeing that like what my kind of, this might sound corny to say, but like what my soul wants from my physical movement is to move more and to be able to control my body and to be really capable in my body. And yeah, that's kept me excited for many years. I'm not the most naturally strong person, so it's been a grind to develop like certain movements and capabilities and stuff, but it keeps on giving back to me.
Mhm. And so before you had your kids, because I know now things are a little bit different. But before you had your kids, what was your like training split? What did that look like? And then what did like a typical workout look like? What type of movements, sets, reps, that type of thing?
Mm. Let's see. So pre-kids, I mean, honestly, it's very similar to still how it
Mhm.
is for maybe like the last 4 to 5 years. And yeah, it's usually 3 strength sessions per week. And usually it's one focused more on pushing. And like right now, that revolves around handstand push-ups. So I do freestanding handstand push-up work. And then I move into
Ooh,
some handstand push. Yeah,
that's a hard one,
yeah.
dude.
It's taken so many years to develop this, right? And then
Back to
I like,
consistency.
yeah, exactly. Literally, it took me about 3 years to get my first freestanding handstand push-up, like a really ugly one. So the commitment was there, the consistency had to be there, or else it just wasn't coming for me. But then yeah, so that's kind of built around handstand push-up. Then maybe go to the wall, do some more handstand push-up work, do some overhead press work with barbell, and then I'll mix in like some pull-ups just to get a little bit of
Hmm.
pulling stimulus in that day. Next day is more of a leg day. I might do squats, Nordics. I like jumping a lot. I actually have now put in so once again, I'm a little bit older. I'm 36, but I love acrobatics and currently working on like some side flips and front flips. So I'll work that into that leg day as well. And
Nice.
then the next strength day is a pull day where I'm doing like weighted pull ups. I'm doing like some I might do some dumbbell rows as well, and then maybe like some dips just to get a little bit of pushing in there too. So
Mhm.
um, very very calisthenics-y, like
But with a
and
good balance as well of a little bit of some weighted stuff as well.
yeah, for sure, right? Yeah, like I think I don't like when people okay, I won't say I don't like when people, I'll just say I
Mm.
don't think that we should like be so engrossed in one method of training that we just think that's it, like this is the holy grail and this is what everybody, you see that all the time. It's like people get into kettlebells, they have some success with kettlebells, and everybody should be doing kettlebells should be the practice, da da da, da. CrossFit should be the practice, da da da. It's like there's so much to gather from different practices, and I think that combining is ultimately the way to go. And I
Mhm.
think combining, because I mean, what is a barbell squat? A barbell squat is basically a loaded calisthenics movement, right? Like,
Mhm.
um, so it's quite interesting. And like, yeah, like a weighted pull up, is that a calisthenics movement or is that a bodybuilding movement? I don't know. It's just a movement that's really good and works nicely. Um, yeah. So then and then another 2 days a week, I'm working on mobility stuff. Right now, I'm working on middle split and horse stance a little bit, just to kind of get deep
Mhm.
in a nice split range of motion. And then yeah, and then another day is more, right now, a bit more parkour related with like some jumps and whatnot.
The parkour stuff is interesting. I've never dove too deeply into that. What's that practice looking like? Are you just having fun with it, trying to flow through it a little bit?
I got really into parkour back in 2020, maybe 2021, and it actually became like my favorite thing for a while. I trained it really uh, quite intensely for me. I was training it like maybe like 3 days a week or something. I love the culture of parkour. I think
Mhm.
it's it's kind of like what my values in physical movement are. That parkour kind of epitomizes it. It's like going out and using your body to accomplish um, certain challenges and certain goals, like with your environment, right? Like, wow, how can I use this wall here to, you know, get over, and then to jump on and stuff. So
Mhm.
it really really appealing to me. I think being outdoors is another one that really
Mhm.
appeals to me, training. um, so it stays interesting to me, but I can't do too much of it. I don't want to get injured. I don't want to break my body down.
Speaking of getting injured, I found that a lot of people who take a somewhat similar approach to you when it comes to the real priority on stretching, mobility, a lot of these more functional movements and pull ups, push ups, these type of things. They're big like martial arts people,
Mm,
and especially like jujitsu. It seems like there
yep.
goes hand in hand with a lot of that stuff. Have you messed around with any of that stuff?
Um, so training capoeira for a few years, that was kind of my only
What is
martial
that?
art. So capoeira is a Brazilian martial art. It's super interesting. It's so how it developed was um, actually slaves in Brazil. They kind of disguised them working on kicks and punching with dance, so it would just look like they were dancing. So it's like a dancing martial art. It's super super beautiful. It's to music, to drums and whatnot. Um, it was very cool. But yeah, like that was a bit of my introduction into more of like a martial state of mind. And yeah, like stretching is such a big thing. Like the way that you approach your practice is such a big thing. um, and I learned from guys who had spent like a lot of time studying different like Eastern martial arts and stuff. And things like horse stance. Do you know what horse stance is?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
It's
horse
like
stance, like so big in like kung fu and other martial arts, and it's just such a good way to kind of actively stretch your hips. And it is, it's like these when you look at martial arts, gymnasts, um, there's such a big emphasis put on stretching, but that's mostly because like they want to be able to use range of motion in
Mm-hmm.
what they're doing, right? But it also helps injury prevention as well.
There's no doubt about it. And yeah, I mean, like it seems like a lot of the exercises and kind of just the stuff that you do in general. Um, One, it seems like you're kind of just trying to have a lot of fun with your practice, and as well as just like things that are seem like more flow than grunt work.
Mm. Yeah, I really think that for me, I always need both in my practice at the same time. Like I just kind of described what my strength training looks at. Those are my days where I'm just like, okay, I'm going to get these sets and reps in. I'm like just focused
Mm-hmm.
on just being strong. But then if I only do that, I'm like, man, I'm not giving my body that other thing that it desires. And sometimes it just desires just to move with no absolutely no goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, like there's a reason why dancing feels really good, you know? And that's because it's like using your body and just with no with like not a lot of intention, you know, just
Mm-hmm.
like to have fun, to feel, to flow. And I think that that's what a lot of us are missing from our practices, are developing like what feels good, what I just want to get in my body today, right? I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
just do like the head thing of like sets and reps. Like I want to feel. And I think that's what flow is a lot of the time.
Yeah, I mean it's such a good way to put it, and um, the balance is needed too, because that grunt work is also a prerequisite to being able to have the freedom to do those movements.
I agree, right? So you said you've been training for 10 years, right?
Yep.
So you're like you've developed probably such a high capacity for work, and like all that 10 years has like it's strengthened your joints, you know, it's like built like this, oh, like this really strong body that someone who didn't train for 10 years wouldn't have at all. um but also like now you have a very capable body that you can go play with, right?
Mm-hmm.
More so than somebody who hasn't had that history of training. And that's what kind of excites me, is because like you create the strong body, but then what do you go do with it, right? And
Mm-hmm.
there's fun ways to use your body. um they're just fun. Yeah, it's like how do kids play? Kids just run around and have fun with their bodies. They don't have injuries yet, you know, they don't have like
Yeah.
stiffness yet.
So what do you think? So for someone trying to like find those fun things, like there's the obvious sports, things like tennis, golf, like jujitsu, other martial arts stuff, parkour. Um, is it just a matter of just messing around, having fun, seeing kind of what speaks to you,
Hmm.
to finding those things? What has your process been to like uncover? Because things like parkour are pretty obscure. Like not you don't hear a lot of people doing parkour.
Agreed. Yeah. I think so. Like jujitsu is really popular right now. Another one is an whoa. It puts a
Yeah, I know
thumbs
that
up
was
on the
weird.
screen.
We got a
That's
thumbs
crazy.
up on the screen for people who are just listening, and there was like a big like what bubble emoji,
Yeah,
bubble
yeah.
bubble thumbs up emoji came up on the screen.
That was crazy. Okay.
Um,
So I was saying like um BJJ, very popular right now. Also bouldering. Bouldering is
very
huge,
popular.
right? Climbing. I lived in Boulder for a year in 2022, I believe. And I'd be amazed that I was training at a climbing gym, and like Tuesday nights, 7 p.m., you know, the gym's just completely packed, right? Um, and I think that the reason like though like these two examples are really popular is because number one, they're social, right? So you can go with your friends and you can develop like deeper relationships with people when you're going through challenge and overcoming things, right? And number two is just like they're inherently like problem solving, like I mentioned earlier, right? Especially bouldering, it's like that's literally, you call it like a bouldering problem, right? And then you're
Mm,
trying to figure out, how do I do this? And like, yeah, and then once again, when you're doing this in a social context, it just brings like so much emotional joy that you don't get from just sitting in the gym with your headphones on and doing sets and reps, right? And I think that's why those two things are really popular. Like you said, parkour, it's more obscure. There's more risk inherently. There's a bit more risk involved, so it's it's not.
is it pretty risky? I didn't realize that. Like you're putting your body in some dangerous spots.
Yeah, I mean, if you go to a parkour gym, then they're going to be able to teach you how to do things like very safely, and the people that you see doing parkour at high levels, like they're so practiced that it's not risky for them. Like they've calculated all these risks, right? And they're like mastering these things. But at the end of the day, yeah, like you're leaping between two different things. A
True.
lot can go wrong, right? If you are bouldering on something and you can't quite get to the next boulder, you can just drop off and, land on something soft, and it's all good. But ultimately, yeah, like I think it is just finding something like that sounds kind of appealing to you. Go to a class and see how you like it. Like there's a lot of people out there that are willing to teach, and then there's a lot of people that are your same age doing it that you can develop like cool friendships through. Because I know when I was like in high school, my favorite thing to do was go to the gym with my friends, and I'd have a group of like 3 or 4 buddies, and we'd all be training together. And um it was about like, wow, we're young men using our bodies, getting stronger and physicality, but it was also about like developing brotherhood here as well,
Yeah. And it's so like for guys especially, like it's in adulthood, it's pretty hard to just like make friends with
It
people. Like
is.
especially if you're not doing like a activity like that, like a physical thing where it's a bit social.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know how like most guys would go about finding like a crew. Like you almost
Yeah.
need something like that.
Totally, man. I agree. I mean, what happens usually? Like you just end up kind of going out for drinks with like your coworkers or something like that, right? Which is it is a way of like bonding and stuff, but it's a little bit fake, right? Like I think the realness comes from like actually going out and actually doing something together, right? And not just like sitting around numbing yourself, but actually
Yeah.
like being more alive together, right?
Yeah, and it's based on like interest
Hmm.
um more than just
Right.
circumstance. Yeah.
The circumstance. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Uh, so, Josh, what's something we haven't talked about today that you think is fundamental to the stuff you talk about, or just like something we haven't covered that you want to touch on?
Mm, let's see. Um,
What's this new style YouTube videos that you're doing?
New style YouTube videos. Yeah, just we're doing a bit more switching between forms of delivery. So like sitting, talking to a camera, talking headshot, and then kind of going into a video where now it's actually live teaching to the camera with a moving camera, and da 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 da. This is how you do this. Da 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 da. And then switching even into just like a voiceover with just all B-roll
Mhm.
over the top. And I've just found that like it makes videos so much more fun to watch because you're constantly like switching up
Mm.
how you're receiving the information. Um, the so, are you familiar with Movement by David?
Movement by David. Yeah, I've watched a couple of his videos. I'm
He has
not
like a
too
lot
well
of
versed.
he just has like a lot of viral YouTube and Instagram reels and shorts and whatnot. And his stuff's like so interesting because he's constantly like doing something new in every single
Mhm.
frame, you know?
His last
You know?
name's Weck, right? Is it Weck or is
Oh
that
no,
someone
that
else?
David Weck. That's
David Weck.
that's someone different. You'll have to check out
Someone
Movement by
different.
David.
Yeah, I have to.
Just like look at the style of how he yeah, and
Does
that's what's super interesting to me about this like content creation space is like just like new styles of creating content are constantly popping up, and yeah, like I've found over the years that that there's like a creative itch that I am always trying to scratch, and I think that
Mhm.
like figuring out new ways um to do content, it's actually quite creative, you know?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no doubt about it. Especially when you're telling the story of your high school basketball team while doing a stretching routine, dude.
What?
That's a hard act right there.
I can't remember what the
The
punchline to that story
punchline.
was.
Yeah, me either. I remember being super entertained though. That's all I remember.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. No, yeah. I mean, it's an interesting idea, right? And the same that you were saying, like having a podcast while you're doing a stretching routine. Like, I think like talking while you're doing something physical is pretty fun. A lot of these videos are blowing up now about like bodybuilder tries jujitsu, or you know,
mm,
like those types of things. And I think it's really interesting because like you're seeing people in a really organic form like trying to do something that they've never done before, and it's kind of fun and engaging. You also have this nice conversation and stuff, so
yeah.
yeah, it makes sense.
Have you been following along with Sam Sulek at all and that kind of totally new style of YouTube that he's almost ushering in?
So I'm like slightly familiar with Sam Sulek, but I know, explain to me like what
So
that
he's
looks like.
blown up. He's getting like crazy views. I want to look it up, but he's posting. So pretty much he's uploading daily. And
Yep.
I'm pulling up his YouTube right now to see how many views he's getting per episode. Um, and
Is
he's
it
uploading daily,
is it
and
short form or long?
it is quite long.
Oh, okay.
It's each episode is around. So his one 4 days ago, which is called Full Day of Eating and Back, and it's
Okay.
just him going through all of his meals and his back day training, and it's no editing, no cut, completely raw.
Yep.
Um, and this video is an hour 30 minutes long, posted 4 days ago, and has 375,000 views.
Wow. Those are good numbers.
And crazy. But so there are these incredibly long, just almost just day in a life videos of a guy training.
Yeah, that man, that's funny because as a content creator, like that's the dream, is like just to make things as easy on me as possible. If you could
Yeah,
just like literally just go put these clips in, upload, I'm done, you know?
yeah.
That's so cool. I
Ooh, but uploading daily though, that's no easy feat.
Oh my gosh, yeah, just to be setting
Yeah.
up the camera that many times and
Oh,
stuff. But you know what's funny is
to
like when I
upload too. Ooh.
yeah, when I was your age, um I started like that was when I first started watching YouTube, and YouTube was just becoming like kind of popular. And actually a lot of people were that was kind of what I was watching, is like
Mm,
bodybuilders training and what in their full day of eating
yeah.
vlogs. And it's funny to see that like that's still really interesting to people
Yep.
like 13 years later. It's kind of having like a resurgence with him, I guess.
Yeah. It's quite funny. Yeah, it's like things are a bit circular. It like goes from
Hmm.
this super unedited to highly professional, and then people have the craving for the unedited again.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, right.
interesting.
Yeah.
So what do you think? I usually ask this question at the as the first question of the podcast, but what do you think one concept that's had the biggest impact on you and um, the success with YouTube or with the training? Anything in particular that comes to mind outside of consistency? You're not allowed to say consistency.
Oh man. um yeah, give me just a second to think, because like the first thing that
Yeah,
pops in my mind is obviously, yeah, consistency. That's what's really um but
then
did
the
was the
difference maker.
question like one concept?
Yeah, one concept, one idea, just something that comes to mind when you think of tangible impact.
Mm, yeah. Okay. So I think that to stay to stay sane in this this world of maybe being a creator, being a business owner, being an entrepreneur, um, there's a concept that I think about a lot, and that's like to treat what I'm doing as the most important thing in the world right now, but then to also like be able to step away from it and to almost laugh at it and to be like, that's not important at all. And I think like this has really helped my emotional health, um, and to stay and to be able to like stay consistent over the years, but to not like break myself doing it because it can get so stressful. Um, just like trying to make content that people are gonna like, and to try to do good numbers, and to try to also turn this thing into a business and make money, and you know, so it's like when I go into to do something, when I go into say write a script for YouTube, it's like I'm like treating this like I'm freaking writing my dissertation. You know, I'm like just like this is the most important thing I can do right now. I'm gonna put my all into it. But then like especially having kids now, like I need to go home and know that that actually isn't that important, and what's important is like right here is like being
Mhm.
with my kids, being with my wife. Um, these are the things that are gonna last for my whole life, you know. And I, yeah, I took a great deal of time a couple years ago, um, really like going through this kind of emotional state because I think I was too wrapped up in training and YouTube and all these different things that um, that I thought were so important. But then, you know, I had like a couple of these emotional experiences where I was just like, man, in 20 years, like this isn't going to be important at all. You know, like when I'm on my deathbed, this isn't going to be important at all. It's like the relationships in my life.
Mhm.
It's the taking time to like sit down by myself in nature. It's these things that are actually important, right? But of course, like I want to be successful. I want to keep pushing myself. I want to be able to give my family a good life. So it's like you have to hold both those things at the same time. So for me, I think being able to just like alternate between those two mindsets,
Mhm.
it's been really important.
And how did you come to that conclusion? Was that just time?
Time definitely helped. I a lot of the time when I talk to like younger dudes like yourself, um, I'm I see that like, oh yeah, like that's just a phase of life that you got to go through, and you got to worry about that stuff right now, and then you got to figure that stuff out. But then like once you hit like 7 years from now, like you'll move on to something else that's like seems a bit more important and whatnot.
You have
Um,
kids, perspectives change.
yeah, yeah, right, right. That perspectives are constantly changing as we grow older, you know. Um, and yeah, I think another thing that triggered that was I got to this point where like I just really wasn't feeling that good, and I was like, dude, we have hit 1 million subscribers. Things have been going really well with the business. Like I'm on paper, things are good. I'm successful, but why do I not feel that good? You know, why is like my heart heavy? And I just found like I had some emotional blockages. I wasn't being like vulnerable enough with people in my life. And once I took the time to focus more on those things, it was like a weight lifted, and like I
Mm,
actually felt good, and it had nothing to do with uh the
the
success.
business.
Yeah,
Mm.
the business stuff, or like that I can do a handstand push up, like that, like those things, like those things don't really make me feel that good uh long term, right?
Yeah.
But it is so it yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
I get it, dude, but that vulnerability and getting to that place, it isn't the easiest thing to be in that position to finally, be able to almost like enjoy the life that you're living.
Yep. It takes a lot, man. It takes like being really honest with yourself, and I think like the conditioning, especially for us men that we've had, um is like we develop a bit of an armor. I think most of us do, and it helps us work hard and be successful. And I think like it's really important for our lives, but then it's also important to time to time be able to just like release that, and just be a kid basically that doesn't have
Mm.
all that like baggage.
Yeah, I mean, I felt it today. Even like I was just on the beach, um, just and I mean, I was just thinking about like the podcast, business stuff, blah blah blah,
Hmm.
and I was like feeling guilty for not working or not like trying
Yep.
to move that forward. And I was like, just fucking enjoy being at the beach. Like it's a
Mm.
nice day out, you know?
Right.
It's that interesting balance of um keeping that like striving towards what you want to accomplish, but at the same time just enjoying the day, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. And that's isn't like I've been through so many of those similar experiences where I'm like, I'm here in this beautiful place, but I can't experience it fully. And that just kind of sucks. But I think that's probably happening for a reason as well. Like that means that, I guess what I'm trying to say is there's also like some positives to that as well. Like you care
Mm-hmm.
about something, you care
Heck yeah.
about the podcast, you care about the business. And some people don't have that
Yeah,
that
I'd argue
that
most people
strive
probably
as
don't.
well. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
it's
Right.
hard to find that purpose and like being in a very creative field and like not having a 9 to 5 and a boss is it's a whole different world. And
Yeah.
it's a lot of blessings, and keeping that in perspective obviously is everything.
Yeah, right. And at the end of the day though, like you're man, you're able to even just be on a beach and like
Yeah,
thinking
right.
about your podcast. Like that's pretty special
Exactly.
too.
No doubt about it, dude. No
how,
doubt. Well, Josh, wait, go on.
how long are you going to be in Spain?
I'm gonna be in Spain here, I think, for the next 2 weeks. Like I'm so blessed to have all the work stuff that I do be internet based.
Yeah.
Um, so just trying to enjoy some nice weather and get away from like I was living in New Jersey before this, and get out of get out of the cold
Yeah.
gray skies and into a sunny beach. So just trying to enjoy it for a little bit. Um, so it's been nice.
It's amazing, man. I'm envious. That's
Yeah,
yeah, that's the life. You're living the life right now, man. So
heck
enjoy
yeah,
it.
trying to. I appreciate
Yeah.
that. But Josh, I appreciate you, dude. It's been a phenomenal episode. Like I said before, I've followed you and your content for quite some time now. So this is a cool full circle podcast for me, and appreciate you taking the time and for all your thoughtful answers and everything.
Absolutely, man. I really appreciate being on. It was a fun combo.
Hell yeah, sweet.